Hello there. It is Monday, the 14th of November, 2022. That's the most twos you're going to have in a year, ever in your lifetime. That's the most twos you're going to have in a year this year. It's nearly over. We've only got a month and a half to go. Jesus Christ, that went fast. So, hello, my name is Graham Hughes, as you might know, and this is the War on Error. And today we're going to be talking about Brexit, because we haven't really chatted about it for a while. So I thought today, just to make a change, we'll have a little bit of banter about Brexit. So I just want to say a big hello to Phil over there, and number 3 is there saying hello, and Charlie's there saying I up, and number three, Richard is saying, which lie is this, I wonder? Well, what I want to do, right, is take several leaves from the book of the Democrats in America, because as we saw last week, the Democrats did better in the midterms than any sitting president has done in the midterms. Right, this is Biden. He's done better in the midterms, not losing a single seat in the Senate, right? And he might actually win one overall when the final vote comes through. But he's the only president to not lose a seat in the Senate in the midterm election since the 1930s. Since the early 30s, since 1932, I think, right? And I know there are things that have happened in America, the Roe versus Wade abortion protection being lifted by the Supreme Court, this horrible conservative cunty Supreme Court that's decided that women don't deserve to have ownership of their own internal organs, and it should be men who make the decisions, or wizened old shrews who make the decisions on their behalf. Which is rather upsetting on many levels. And also you've got the Trump factor as well. So normally in a given election like this, it's a referendum on the government. But the Republicans, in their infinite stupidity, managed to turn it into a referendum on Trump. So a lot of the people who were like massive Trump fans and, standing for office, things like the Secretary of State of various states, who are in charge of the elections, you see. So this is why Trump wanted his little people in as secretaries of state in these particular states, so that when he loses the next election in 2024, if he does decide to run, he can say, no, it's all right. You can ignore the voters. You can ignore what the voters say, right? Because instead, what we're going to do is we're going to just decide what I want to be reality, and then that'll magically become reality somehow by magic, I guess. I don't know. I'm feeling like I shouldn't have worn grey today. I've got this very thick hoodie because it's cold down here, and I've got this grey backdrop as well. Anyway, the thing that most of all I'd like to take out of the the Democrats' handbook is the idea that we call the denial of the legitimate result of the 2020 election, and a result that was litigated against over 50 times by the Trump camp, and every single court it went into, it got thrown out because every single lawsuit was made without any merit at all. No evidence whatsoever, apart from like crazy hearsay. There's a movie on YouTube. I can't stress to you enough that you should not watch it. It's called like 2000 Psychopaths or something like that. And basically, it's like this footage of someone posting their vote into the postal vote thing outside the polling office, and they're like, oh, that took too long. And look, someone took a photograph of themselves voting and putting it on their phone. That proves they were cheating. They only put one vote in the box, and they took a photo of it going in the box to prove, I guess, they voted. Yeah, a bit of proof there, proof of posting. I've done that before. Taken a picture of the letter that I've put in the post as I'm putting it in the post. But apparently that's cheating, according to the Trumpsters. Anyway, so what the Democrats have quite smartly done, and they've managed to get quite a lot of the media on board with this idea as well, is they've called it the big lie. They call it the big lie, okay? And this is what we need to do with Brexit. We need to start referring to it not as Brexit, but as the big lie. So we stop saying, did you vote for Brexit? And instead we say, did you vote for the big lie? That puts the people who voted for this fucking monstrosity on the back foot because they have to say, well, I didn't know it was a lie at the time. Oh, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. And if they say it's not a lie, what you want to say, so it's called 2000 Mules. There you go. 2000 Fucksticks. 2000 Mules is the movie that you should avoid seeing. But yes, I'm going to show you a little clip now of the Vote Leave campaign's video from 2016. Should we have a look together? Should we look together? Come on, let's do it together. It'll be fun. I'll shrink down into the corner so I don't get in your way too much. I think if I can actually find myself. Oh God, I need to find myself. People often say that, when they go traveling. Did you go traveling to find yourself? And I'm like, darling, I found myself when I was about 9 years old, and I've been finding myself every night since. Anyway, so this is the video. Swear to God, this is what they put out on their lying shitty networks for people to watch on YouTube and Facebook or whatever. And just marvel at how badly this fucking load of bollocks has aged. Listen to this. Here we go. It's not from The Independent. This is just...
You will benefit from better care provided by our NHS thanks to the reallocation of funds from the EU budget.
Better care from the NHS. So, NHS waiting times are at a historical record high. There are people who need to be treated who have cancer, who need to be treated immediately. Every week that you wait, every 2 weeks that you wait before you treat someone with cancer can take 10% off their longevity, off their life. You can't fuck around. You can't wait while someone's got cancer. You need to treat them immediately. But we can't. People are having to wait hours for ambulances to arrive, as happened to a member of my family over the summer. Over an hour for an ambulance to arrive. And if it had been a more serious incident, that person in my family might not be with us anymore. But the Leave campaign, the big lie, told us in their advert, there it is, that it would all be great. Let's go on a bit more. Oh, hang on.
Controlled immigration will lead to reduced waiting times for you and your loved ones. Excess funding that would otherwise be sent to Brussels could also be directed to education, meaning...
Okay, so sorry, I didn't realise I hadn't switched the video across there. So I was watching the video, but you weren't. But here's the video. The video doesn't matter. It's the voiceover that really carries this. So first of all, they spoke about the NHS. Now then they talked about immigration, and we'll control immigration, and that would be a good thing. Yeah. So EU immigration has gone off a cliff, and non-EU immigration from poorer countries with poorer standards of living and poorer standards of education has shot through the roof. The number of immigrants coming over, refugees coming over from France has shot through the roof. It's gone up like 100 times what it used to be, because we used to be part of the Dublin Agreement that said basically, we could take people back if they came across the channel. We could take them back to Calais. And we're not part of that anymore. And today, Suella Braverman, the fucking arse, the witch tits blobfish herself, Suella Braverman, she said she went on Twitter. She went on Twitter to write French to the French because they're giving we're giving them an extra £8 million to do fuck all, like literally to do more patrols along the beach. There's no targets or anything like that. Just literally £8 million to do more patrols. Stop these people coming across in the small boats, like literally tens of thousands of them, because it's so fucking easy. And I point out now that not only people doing that dangerous journey, I say it's easy, but I mean it's easier than how it used to be when people could be taken back to France. It's easier now to get into the UK. And another thing that they're not even talking about is the number of people coming through on lorries, because we're not checking the lorries coming in, guys. We're not checking the lorries coming in. If I was an immigrant, I'll probably prefer to be on the back of a lorry than trying to make it over the English Channel or the Monge in the middle of November. In choppy water in the night, in freezing cold weather. Just me, I'd prefer to do it that way. But, I'm not everybody. But yeah, so there you go. There's a big lie. So what have we had so far? We've had, we'll have more money for education. This is education they're talking about now, which is also seeing more children than ever before going hungry. More children than ever before needing free school dinners. More children than ever before failing to achieve their potential, because of what this government's done to them and the fact they're trying to learn things on an empty fucking stomach. Okay, let's continue with the big lie.
better prospects for your children.
Oh, better prospects for your children. So this Suella Braverman, witch tits blobfish, right? She said today that she was very proud of the fact that she could work with France, and she wrote it in French. She wrote her message in French, right? Do you know why she can speak French? Because she did fucking Erasmus. She did Erasmus. She was fine to go and study at a university of her choice around Europe, which we've stopped our children doing now. In fact, the people who voted for the big lie have stopped our children from doing that. We didn't need to leave Erasmus. You don't have to be part of the EU to be part of Erasmus. You can be part of Erasmus Plus. You don't need to be part of the EU to be part of Horizon. You don't need to be part of the EU to be part of the European Space Agency. You don't need to be part of the EU to be part of Interrail. There are so many parts of Europe that work and brilliantly. And also the Customs Union. We don't need to be part of the EU to be part of the Customs Union. Many countries are. We don't need to be part of the EU to be a member of the single market. Some other countries are. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are things that we could be in Schengen and not in the EU because Switzerland is. Norway is. They're not in the EU, guys. But we walked away from everything. We walked away from everything because these clanging fuckwits told you the big lie, and enough dickheads, not you watching this because obviously you're not, believed it. They believed the big lie. Let's continue on.
Your wages will rise thanks to better controlled immigration, which will lead to less competition for jobs.
Okay, so your wages will rise. Anyone who's had a real terms pay cut might might object to that summarization, and the idea that it's now easier to get jobs because there's not people competing for the same jobs. This is the thing, right? And this is part of the big fucking lie, and this is what fucks me off when you have a lot of people who voted for it who I guess are happy in their shit. They're happy in their pigsty. Okay, fair enough, whatever. But don't drag me down into your fucking pigsty. I don't want to be part of your fucking pigsty, mate. That's up to you. That's up to you, right? That's your life. You can lead it. Just don't drag me into the stinking cesspit that is your life. And what they've done is they've made it very clear that if you are the brightest and best, you can come here to the UK from anywhere in the world. We will make it as easy as humanly possible to take all the top jobs, all the well-paid jobs that are obviously not done by the private school kids that run mostly everything in the UK, but the ones that are left over, the top research jobs, top science jobs, top banking jobs. We'll get people from all over the world to have the best jobs in Britain. So non-British people get the best jobs. The jobs that are left, the ones that, are overflowing with vacancies at the moment, are not necessarily jobs that people want to do. And that's why in the 1950s, we brought people over from the West Indies. That's why in the 1970s, we joined the EEC. Because there was this idea that we could have people moving around at through the same pet generation, who are now a bunch of gammon. Really fucks me off. Not all of them, obviously. Some of them are all right. But a lot of them are fucking gammon, right? And they voted for this. They voted to give all our top jobs to foreigners, right? Just fine. I'm not a brain surgeon. I never will be. So if you want to give it to someone from, Abu Dhabi, that's fine with me. I don't mind that. But it's the fact that all of the lower paid jobs, the quite shitty jobs that people used to come over here to do, because we didn't kind of want to do them. They're the ones that we're supposed to do now. Fruit picking. Why don't you go out fruit picking? Why don't you go out vegetable picking? Get up at 4:30 in the morning and spend the day bent over in a field in all kinds of weather, in the mud, plucking turnips out the ground. Great. Wonderful. Let's move on, shall we?
Your weekly food shop will become cheaper.
Did you hear that? Your weekly food shop will become cheaper. It's gone up by 25%. I don't know about you, but my weekly, our weekly food shop in this household has gone up by 25%. Because we've noticed it's a lot more expensive now than it was a couple of years ago. And that's a direct result of us leaving the fucking EU. Another thing about our food is the fact that everything goes off quicker now. Things like a lettuce used to last for a week. You are lucky if it lasts for a few days now. And that's because we left the EU. So let's continue on with this terribly dated advert. Aged
Food
terribly.
prices will no longer be inflated by agricultural policies controlled by the EU. You and your
Right.
family.
Brilliant. Food prices will no longer be artificially inflated by EU policy, i.e. the Common Agricultural Policy, which ensured that we would never starve. Because you know what? If our crops failed, we'll be able to get food for the same price from anywhere else in Europe. Which comes in handy if you have a wet summer or a particularly harsh winter, or you just things go to shit, flooding. I don't know. Maybe you had a couple of days of like 40-degree heat over the summer, which fucked a lot of crops. It'd be really good if we were part of like an organization and we could get the crops that we needed that grew all right in, say, Poland. We could get it from Poland. We could get it from Spain. We could get it from the Netherlands. No. For the same price. Because that was the common market. No, can't do that anymore. Let's move on. What's this with the kids?
Will benefit from a resurgent economy led.
We'll benefit from a resurgent economy. We're now in an official recession and we are heading towards a depression, which is quite appropriate since I've been fucking depressed since June 23rd, 2016. I was just talking to Catherine and she said, I hate the way Brexit makes you. It makes you really angry. You never used to be like this. And she's absolutely right. I used to be very, very happy-go-lucky. I mean, I like to dabble in a little bit of politics now and again, but I've said this before. 10 years ago, I couldn't name you people in the cabinet. I didn't know. I knew just about the Prime Minister, David Cameron, and I knew Cleggy from Last of the Summer Wine. That was it. I don't know anyone else. Maybe Gideon thingy, George Meldrew. What's his name? George, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. George guy. Anyway, George. His real name's Gideon. George Scott, George Melly, George, I don't know, cunty flop flaps. Anyway, whatever his name was, Osborne, George Osborne, that was the one. Gideon Osborne. I could say his name only because he was booed at the Olympics. That was the only reason he came across my radar. It was like, oh yeah, he got booed at the Olympics, that guy. Can you believe this shit? So anyway, here I am, fucking 10 years later, doing a weekly show. Well, bi-weekly shows. I mean, during lockdown, I did a show every day. Every day during lockdown, we'll have a live show. Obviously, I've had to cut that down a bit and actually work on things. But the fact remains, like, they're talking about a resurgent economy after leaving the EU. And I just want you to marvel at how stupid that is, right? How stupid this fucking guy looks opening his fucking laptop with a sticker over the Apple logo. It's snazzy. So fucking hell. Anyway, so a resurgent economy. A resurgent economy. That's what they said would happen. And we've got the absolute motherfucking diametric opposite. The opposite of that. Let's move on a little bit.
By new and flourishing small businesses.
New and flourishing small businesses. So, have I got news for you? Small and medium enterprises have gone off a cliff in this country. Thousands of them have gone bankrupt. Thousands. And it's not because of COVID. Every country in the fucking world had COVID. It's because our economy is in the fucking sink. Because of fucking Brexit. Because of the big lie. The big lie. The biggest lie that's ever been told in the history of British politics. The big lie.
Following the removal of burdensome EU regulations and red tape.
Oh, burdensome regulations and red tape. So, of the 28,000 British companies that used to export to the EU, only 18,000 of them are still exporting to the EU post-Brexit. That's a third of all small to medium enterprises in the UK that used to trade with the EU have stopped trading with the EU. So they've either gone bankrupt, closed down, or, I don't know, they found an emerging market somewhere, hidden away on the other side of the Sahara Desert where they can trade with gay abandon because no one's there to put up red tape and things. Now, I'd like you to try and send something to maybe some agricultural goods to Northern Ireland, which is a constituent part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The name, the clue is in the name. Try and send something over there without filling out any cumbersome red tape. Honestly, mate, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
With less pressure on housing, younger generations will also find it easier to get on the housing ladder.
Younger generations will find it easier to get on the housing ladder. So, cards on the table, I'm still not on the housing ladder. I'm 43, and I don't think I'm ever going to get on the housing ladder in this country. It's impossible. Because to catch up, as much as I need to catch up, in order to do that now, there's literally no jobs for me that aren't already taken by some privately educated twat, or working for someone else. There's so few jobs that I'll be particularly good at. I'm not great at everything. That would bring me in enough money on a regular basis to even get a foot on the housing ladder, even up here in the Northeast. I'm 43. I mean, the generation below me is absolutely fucked. They call it Generation Z or Generation Z. It's Generation F, mate. Generation fucked. Fucked by the Tories, fucked by the big lie.
Politicians, both local and national, will become more accountable.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Are you hearing that? Politicians will become more accountable. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wowzers. Let's continue on, shall we?
Helping to strengthen your community and others, especially those most damaged by EU policies like farming, fishing, and industries like steel.
Oh, the big lie. The big lie. And people fell for this. And now the fishing industry is in the sink. You know, the entire fishing industry took less money in a year than Grand Theft Auto 5 took in a day when it was launched. And Grand Theft Auto 5 is a British game, by the way, which people forget. It took more money in a day than the whole of the British fishing industry took in a year. That is quite phenomenal, I've got to say. So yeah, let's listen to the end of this then. We've got a few more seconds left before we cry ourselves to death into our solemn cups of tea.
A more prosperous and safer future awaits us outside the EU.
More prosperous? We're in a fucking recession. We're the only advanced economy whose economy hasn't recovered to what it was before COVID. We've gone backwards, boys and girls. Every other economy is racing ahead. When we were told to vote for Brexit by the big liars who sold the big lie to us, we were told that, well, you've just seen what we were told. This is what we were told. The big lie. We were told all this bullshit by the powers that be, by the privately educated toffs of the world, the Moggs, the Goves, Johnsons, Cummings, fucking Corbyn for that matter. Yeah, I'm a bit lukewarm about the EU. Oh, thanks for that, mate. Thanks for that. People wonder why I hate that fella. Anyway, look at this happy fucking family going off into the fucking nuclear sunset there. Beautiful, beautiful. Fucking hell. So when they voted for this, our economy was 90% that of Germany's. It is now, in 2022, 70% that of Germany's. We were actually on course up till 2016 for our economy to overtake Germany's, which would have been remarkable because we have a smaller population. We have about the same population as France. So, we were kind of competing with France, but we were accelerating ahead in the race, in the economic race. And we would have had all this extra money to invest in social services, hospitals, schools, a Green New Deal. We would have had money left over to do that. But now we're being told we're fucking bankrupt. We can't go bankrupt to a country. We can just print more money if we need to. But there we have it. That's the situation the big lie has got us into. On the fucking
A vote to leave is a vote for a brighter future for you, your family, and your community.
Fight a future. Fucking hell. Leave.eu, obviously set up by Aaron Banks, privately educated, funded by Jeremy, what's his name? what's that absolute fucking gobshite's name? Farage, and yeah, and what was it? Wigmore, privately educated. Hannon, privately educated. Richard Tice, privately educated. Tell me if you start getting bored of this, because basically it was all a bunch of fucking toffs who were spat out their mum's twats into big fucking piles of money that set up this group, Leave.eu, along with Vote Leave, that was run by Johnson and his cunt mates. And they told the big lie. And enough idiots fell for it because, they wanted to believe it. And there were quite a few people who, let's face it, they honestly believed it because they've been drip-fed lies, absolute clanging fucking lies, by the likes of the Daily Mail for years on end. Decades of lies and lies and lies leading up to the big lie, which was that our life would get immeasurably better if we left the EU. And obviously that didn't fucking happen. In fact, it got worse. It got much, much fucking worse. So, yeah, we have, I'm going to bring up your comments here. I'm sorry I've not been able to read your comments, but for some reason my laptop screen is super dark. Like my soul. And as a result of it being super dark, it's I can't actually read your comments because it's too dark. I need it to be lighter. So I'm just getting it up on my other monitor here. And yeah, hopefully you won't hear me echoing away in the background. I'll just turn the sound off on my computer just in case that happens. And yeah, oh wow, we've got 41 people watching. That's pretty good for me these days. Right, pop out chat. Okay, good. There we go. Oh, do I look like that? Jesus Christ. Okay, so just while your messages are loading up, because this is taking ages. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Right, let's go through what you've said very quickly, because there's quite a few messages here. I can't stand the voiceover already, says Richard. What, mine? Oh, you mean the other one? Thank God for that. Good evening, Graham, says Jacob. Hello, Jacob. Hi, it says number 3. Phil says, as far as I know, it's not a criminal offence to enter the sea. What are they patrolling? Indeed. God, it's also depressing, says number 3. I hate, loathe, and detest and despise liars, especially those with significant influence. Yeah. Well, that's all they're told in their posh little privileged prick schools, these little plum schools that these little fucking cunts go to. Cunt farms, I call them. They learn how to be abused and lie and cheat and swindle and generally be absolute, dysfunctional, broken people, broken men run Britain. People who are broken in their schooling. The ones who went to boarding school, for fuck's sake. I mean, that should be a crime against humanity. Imagine sending your 8-year-old child away to boarding school. I mean, all it is a posh borstal. That's it. Only probably more violent and more prone to sexual abuse because there's less CCTV cameras than in a borstal. It's like Young Offenders Institute. I find it really difficult. I think there's certain things that humans do that should be a crime against humanity. Arranged marriages is one of them. Hey, love, welcome home. I've just found for you the man that's going to rape you every night for the rest of your life. Have a nice time. Bye. No. Arranged marriages, fuck off. And also sending your children to boarding school, fuck off. I mean, seriously, put them up for adoption or something. Give them to parents who actually care for their children, actually wanted kids and wanted to look after kids, rather than just like, I don't know, give them to the wet nurse for the first few years. Have a couple of days of laughing at them when they're 5 and quite funny. And then as soon as they're old enough to actually, I don't know, tie their own shoelaces, you ship them off to the fucking mines of Muriel or whatever. Jesus Christ. Really? Anyway. Catherine says I get really agitated about this. I do. But yeah. Everyone involved in the Brexit campaign, pretty much everyone was privately educated, and that is not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence, because all those fuckers have got their money in other fucking countries, mate. They've got it in the Cayman Islands. We know this. We saw the Panama Papers. David Cameron's dad has all his fucking money. And say, like, oh, David Cameron, he campaigned for Remain. Yeah, he was the greatest fucking weapon for the Leavers to say to dickhead Lexiteers, well, stick one to Cameron, he's posh. Yeah, stick one to Cameron by voting against him, says Boris Johnson, who also went to Eton. Fuck's sake. Anyway, Braverman went to the Sorbonne. Chatty Rat, our country has gone down the crapper. My wages haven't risen in 5 years. Yeah, Plum Duff, I'm sorry to hear that, and you're not alone in that situation. Also, Erasmus was used as a recruitment tool. 30-ish of my NHS colleagues did placements through Erasmus from Portugal, Italy, and others. That's well and truly fucked, says Phil. No, he said effed, but I can say fucked because I don't care. Plum says, but my employer likes to add extra work to cover those that have left. Those sunny uplands, indeed. So, like, basically, we're working for less money and doing more work. Yay, Brexit. Yay, the big lie. So, from now on, from after this podcast, I am going to be spending every time Brexit is brought up, I'll be saying, you mean the big lie? Because this is the British big lie. There's the US big lie, and there's the British big lie. And this has been going on now for 6 fucking years. And everything they promised has turned to dust in their mouths. Those lying sacks of shit. And the worst thing is, I knew it was bullshit. So don't think for a moment that they didn't know it was bullshit. They absolutely knew it was bullshit. And they pushed it anyway. Because all they want to do is fuck your life over. That's all they want to do. Ironically enough, nowadays, that's all I want to do to them. I want them to go to fucking jail for destroying this country, for ripping it apart at the seams, for having 2 of the 4 constituent parts of the United Kingdom vote to stay in the EU. And the 2 dickhead nations, England and fucking Wallyland, Wales, fucking voting to leave. And I only believe that the Welsh voted to leave, or the Welsh. Wales voted to leave because of the fucking English that live in Eastern Wales. Eastern Wales? I don't even think we call it East Wales, do we? But on the border, effectively. Oh, a super chat has just come in, so I'm going to zoom down to that. Oh, we've got a few of them. Kate Cannon, £1.79. Thank you very much, Kate. Really appreciate that. We got Alexis for £2 saying Brexit, some excrement uplands. Indeed. Thank you very much for the super chat, and to Kate as well. And I've got David Faulkner there with 38 Hong Kong dollars, all the way from sunny Hong Kong. Thank you very much, sir. You are a legend. Thank you. And number 3's thrown 40 quid into the pot. Thank you very much, number 3. Amazing. And just while I'm just mentioning number 3, because I contacted Richard today to ask him to delete a couple of messages that I had sent him through Twitter. Okay, I'm going to stop this podcast for a moment for a public service announcement. From what I hear, loads of people who worked on Twitter security have been let go by Elon Musk. So thousands of people who worked on the security systems for Twitter have been let go of. So every single hacker in the world is now trying to hack Twitter. They want to hack the top level accounts. Now, I doubt they'll go after me, but I wanted to make sure that my account details that I'd given to Richard so he could put money in my bank account were not seized by nefarious people in some other country who set up a direct debit into the Goldmine account or whatever it is, right? I wanted to make sure that that information wasn't there. So I deleted it at my end, but you have to get the person who you were talking to delete it as well, because you can only delete it for yourself, which is really annoying and a bit shit. And I don't even know if you can delete like entire messages, because I couldn't find the way of doing it. Maybe there is a way of doing that, but I've only been using the message function on Twitter for a couple of years. I don't use it that often, so I don't have that many messages. But if you do, if you've used it a lot, if you have had private conversations that you would rather not go public, anything you can be blackmailed about, and any bank details or anything like that, please delete your messages and contact the person that you were talking to and ask them very nicely to delete the messages in question as well. Hopefully that'll take them out the system. It might not. They might have backups. Who fucking knows? And what Elon Musk has done, and we're not going to talk about Twitter today because we talked about it a bit last week, and I don't want to go on about it, but he has spat his dummy out the pram because he was forced to buy a company that he didn't want. He was stoned, 3 o'clock in the morning. He thought, I don't know, I'll buy Twitter. And then he didn't realize that it was actually a binding contract that he signed up to buy Twitter. He tried to get out of it. And then like a week before it was going to go to court and he was going to get sued for billions, he decided, I'll tell you what, I'll buy it anyway because most of it's not his money and he doesn't give a shit. And I'll run it into the ground. I'll run it into the ground in the most spectacular way possible. which he is doing. But the fact that we could be facing a situation where there is a massive hack and a lot of messages, private DMs go public, that is very, very well. Listen to say, I don't want to be scaremongering. It's not definitely going to happen, but it's more likely it's more likely than it was last month. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so moving on to some more messages. Osborne says Plumduff. Yeah, I was trying to remember Gideon Osborne's name. Graham, cheese pasty was £1 for a few years. For years, months ago, it went up to £1.39. This week, it's gone up to £1.59. Yeah. Well, at my local that I go to in Durham, they used to do this great thing where you could get like filter coffee for £1, and it was bottomless. It was great. So you could go in, just spend a few hours drinking coffee and doing a bit of work in there. Good high-speed internet as well. And it's gone up to £2.40. Now, literally overnight, £1 to £2.40 for a cup of coffee. I mean, it's filter coffee. It tastes like mud, but I don't care. Anyway, but yeah, it's ridiculous. I gave a box of chocolates to a toilet cleaner last week to say thanks. She burst into tears and said no one ever did. Oh, a nice thing for her in her job. Oh, that's really sweet of you, Plumduff. We should be doing more of that. We definitely should be doing more of that. QA Library says QED, 60% inflation rate, talking about the cheese pasties, indeed. Number 3 says, if the products of a system are demonstrably unhealthy or undesirable, it's time to examine the system. Yes. Well, look, we've had this conversation so many times, but as things stand, there are over... I like this. I can just put it into the building here. As things stand, there are over 450 people on my list of famous people in Britain, people in the public eye, people with power in Britain who went to private school on my list. So it is privateschoolmafia.com. I'm just going to type that in. I don't know if it'll work. Yeah, there you go. Let's come up. It's come up for me anyway. If you head over there, you'll see just how many people are on the list. It is literally over 450 people, and there are some absolute corkers on there that you would not have seen coming. You would never have guessed in a million years that some of the people on that list are on that list, and they fucking are. And yeah, it's amazing and dispiriting in equal measure, because it just tells me that people who are young and talented and spirited and have the ability to do this stuff will never get an opportunity, because all of the top jobs are hogged by people who were born into money. All of them. And then that fucker, Alistair Stewart, who's on GB News, so he's a GBBzer. And he says, no, actually, what we public school boys are doing the state school, the hoi polloi, the oiks, the plebs. We're doing them a favour. Do you know why we're doing them a favour? Because otherwise, we'll be educating the state sector, and that would cost the state sector more. Fuck you, Alistair Stewart. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on, you lying, sanctimonious piece of shit. That is not true on any fucking level. First of all, it would be a lot fucking cheaper to just educate the 7% of people in Britain who go to private school in the state schools than it is to give a massive £3 billion tax break to the fucking public schools, only 1% of which they actually spend on needy students who can't afford the incredibly large fees that are required to go to the university. To go to the school, not the university, the school. A lot of that money goes on income support to billionaires, to support the cost of sending their 7th child to a £30,000 a term school. So they give a bit of a discount. They go, how much have you earned? They say, well, I'm self-employed, so I just decide how much I sort of give myself. And, I may earn 75 million in dividends a year, but I actually only earn about 11,000 technically. So I'm actually, I'm very needy. I'm very needy in my castle, my fucking castle. So some of the money that's taken by these charities and not paid in tax goes on the helping very, very rich children go to these very, very posh schools. And over 50% of the money goes on sporting equipment and musical instruments. for the very, very rich and very, very posh children. And it'd be much cheaper for them to join a state school. And do you know what else would happen if they joined a state school? They would mix with people in the state school from all walks of life. They wouldn't just be hanging out in their bubble, in their posh little bubble of unreality. You think Rishi Sunak has ever had a friend who's working class? Has he bollocks? He may have shook hands with someone who's working class once and then washed his hands thoroughly afterwards with a fucking scrubbing brush. He's never going to fall in love with someone from, the other side of the tracks, is he? Is he? No, of course he's not. Because he went to Winchester, an elite public school. Then he went to Oxford, an elite university. 35% of its intake come from private schools. 1 in 3. So if there's three students walking down the street in Oxford, if you punch all 3 of them, you've got a pretty much 100% chance of hitting someone who went to private school. Same in Durham, same in Cambridge. They absolutely dominate public life in the UK. And the fact that so many people make excuses and go, well, if they went to state schools, that'd be even worse. No, I want them to go to state schools so they mix with people from all walks of life, and also their fucking parents are fucking invested in making sure the state schools are as good as humanly possible. I take Finland as my inspiration because they have eradicated public schools years ago, private schools, as we say, years ago in Finland, and they have the best education system in the world. There's a reason for that. Anyway, so, I hate the whole sort of, if you talk about it, they go, oh, no, don't say that, Graham, because I want my kids to go to private school. I'm like, oh, fuck it. Even if they did, they're just more likely to get abused. Seriously, than if they go to a state school. Anyway, moving on. Such a major change should never have happened without proper assessment. Indeed. Chatty Rat says countries that don't have food security should not mess with food supply chains. GB has not been self-sufficient in food since the early 1800s. UK has not been self-sufficient in food since 6th of December 1922, which is when the Irish Free State was established, I think. Chatty Rat's going to correct me now. Phil says, me neither. No point in worrying about something we can never attain. Ginger says, I finally bought a house when I was 53. Fucking hell. That's Ginger's, who's over in the States, actually. So that's not a British thing. So maybe when I'm 53, maybe when I'm 63, I don't know. But them Tories are all about helping those who make the most of opportunities, whatever they are. No, they're not. They shut down opportunities for people like me. That's what they do. That's what they always do. They're gatekeepers. Look at who gets publishing deals. Look who gets to make TV shows. I mean, look who gets to write books. Look who gets to write books in this country. David Walliams, Ben Goldacre, wrote Bad Signs. A brilliant book. I fucking love it. Darren Brown, Tricks of the Mind. Love Darren Brown. They're all privately educated. Fucking Matt Lucas, privately educated. They all went to posh private schools. Rick Mail was privately educated. Joe Strummer was privately fucking educated. Robbie Coltrane, rest in peace, was privately educated. You can't get anywhere in this country unless you're so fucking lucky or so fucking talented. And I'm pretty lucky. I'm not very talented necessarily. And that's why, when you think about it, the tabloids fucking hate footballers and reality TV stars, because they're the few people who come up from, a normal upbringing, like the 93% of us who actually attain those levels of income. Think about how obsessed the newspapers are about how much these working class, often black, footballers earn. You never hear them wanging on about how much bankers earn, do you? No, never mentioned once in the Daily Mail or the fucking Sun. No, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about what the politicians' second jobs are, that they're raking it in as a consultant. We don't talk about that. No. But did you know that this working class footballer is earning £2 million a week? Yeah, good. Do you know what? If they can fill up a stadium full of people every fucking week to see them play, yeah, they're fucking worth it. It's like saying, oh, you know, these rock and roll people, they did a gig and they made £1 million out the gig. They literally got 100,000 people to go and see them live. Good, fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. You can actually see what they're doing and they're very good at it, obviously. They're talented. Give them the fucking money. Most people in this country who have that kind of cash are investment fucking bankers who were born rich. And we never hear anything about them. No one ever talks about inheritance tax and how unfair it is that you've got this sort of sandwich middle that have to pay inheritance tax, right? So if you're worth less than $250,000 or whatever it is these days, you don't have to pay any at all. Then suddenly, at one point, it locks in. It's like 40%. And it only goes up to about $500,000. But then if you've got that much money, you get a clever accountant in and you make sure that you don't have to actually pay that inheritance tax. Or your children don't have to pay that inheritance tax. And that's why when the Duke of Westminster died about 10 years ago, his son inherited his £11 billion fortune and didn't pay a single fucking penny of inheritance tax. Not a penny. Not a penny on £11 billion. More money than most British people would see in 1,000 lifetimes. Unbelievable. I've got another super chat, which is good. Sorry, opportune thing was a joke. 500 pennies for a shit joke, says Phil Spicer. Oh, thank you very much, Phil. That makes me feel better. I don't mean to be so angry. It's just, you know, I find it hard not to get emotional about all this shit because it is wrong. It's wrong. And they want to portray us as these babies going, yeah, it's so unfair. That's like portraying the people fighting in World War I against the fucking Nazis as whingers who were just whinging about it being unfair. No, they were saying, this is wrong. This is so wrong. This is off the fucking charts wrong. Morally, ethically, financially, economically, politically, any way you look at it, it is wrong. The big lie, Brexit. Foisted on this population that up till that very fucking moment, no one gave a shit. In 2010, a survey asked what are the most pressing things, you know, in Britain. Number 1 was the NHS. Number 2 was the economy. Number 3 was schooling. Number 4 was fucking transport. The EU didn't even come into it. I think it was less than 1% of respondents put it in their top 5 things that they cared about. Membership of the EU. We've got to leave the EU because it's evil, and we've been told it's evil. Why? We've been told it by the Daily Mail and, you know, that foreigner. Sorry, he's not a foreigner. He's British. He's just got non-dom status, so he doesn't actually live here in the UK. Rupert Murdoch owns the Times and the Sun. He's not British and he doesn't live in the UK. But, you know, let them tell us what to do. Let these foreigners tell us what to do. Don't pay tax in our country. Great, love it. Fucking gullible fucking idiots who fell for the big lie. Call it the big lie. Honestly, I can't emphasize this enough, right? Because it puts them on the back foot. All right. We talk about Brexit. Don't use the word Brexit anymore. You know what we're referring to. Oh, you fell for the big lie. That's what you call it over Christmas dinner when you see your fucking dickhead relatives who voted for this fucking thing. Call it the big lie. Every opportunity. Yeah, well, since the big lie happened, I mean, you know, the economy's been in the shit because they lied. The liars lied about everything. You know, that Cummings guy who masterminded the whole £350 million on the bus. He was lying when he said he went to Barnard Castle to test his eyes. Did you know he was lying? Or did you think he was telling the truth? Was he lying? Was he lying? Yes, he was. Okay, so he was lying about that. Was he lying about Brexit? Where's our £350 a week for the fucking NHS? One to the other. Once a liar, always a liar. That's my fucking advice. So I'm just going to skip over a few of the messages. I'm sorry, but we're going back a bit too far and we've only got 10 minutes left or so of the show tonight. Do you think Prince Andrew would be worried about austerity? Nope. I think he's worried about, you know, he's been told that he can't be a royal anymore. He's whinging about it. Maybe I do, but I want to be a royal. I don't know what else to do. Yeah, mate. How about you just fuck off? How about you just fuck off and keep fucking off and find a place where you just can't fuck off anymore and then fuck off some more, Prince Andrew, you fucking nonce. And you know the type with Prince Andrew, don't you? Because he's not like he's not one of these Gary Glitter nonsense who's got loads of child porn on his fucking computer. But what he is, he's one of these people who knows someone who can get him women. And he doesn't care where they come from. He doesn't care about them. He doesn't see them as human beings. They're just chattel to people like this. And he can do what he likes to them because he's powerful and he's rich and he's well connected and he thinks he can get away with it. And that is so disturbing and so wrong and so evil on so many levels. And I hate that type of person. But Prince Andrew, he went to Gordeston, which I think was this fucking horrific school up in Scotland or something that Prince Philip went to, and he sent all his sons to it, and it was fucking awful, and they were all abused there, which kind of makes sense when you look at how they turned out, especially Prince Charles, now King Charles, who famously wanted to be his mistress's tampon, which is something I'm never going to stop going on about because it's kind of as fucked up as it is hilarious. All schools should essentially be the same. Yeah, number 3. I mean, what I think they should have, and I've spoken about this before. First of all, get rid of league tables for schools. You have league tables for LEAs, and the use of that league table is to get the LEAs to improve, right? And you have school districts. Any kind of school district has a few schools in it, right? And they specialize in certain things, right? They all do the basics, maths, English, right? And then they specialize. So you'll have some more technical schools, engineering schools, science schools. You'll have some schools that do more along the lines of academia, along the lines of drama or art, right? And what you do is you set it up in such a way that when children go to the upper school, which I think should be 14 to 18, I can't believe that we put 11-year-old children in the same school as 18-year-olds. I mean, what the fuck? Look at an 11-year-old, then look at an 18-year-old and go, yeah, they should be put in the same group. They should be put in a school to get... No, fuck that shit, right? We have junior school, middle school, and then we have high school, all right? And high school is 14 to 18. Simple as that, right? Because you've got to stay in school till you're 18. When children only stayed in school till 14 or 16, it kind of made more sense. But now you have to stay in school till you're 18. So the idea is that you have these schools, and once you are in high school, once you're in 14 to 18 years old, you can spend a day in different schools. So if you want to mix it up a little bit, if you are, you love science, you're very good at science, but you also want to do a bit of drama, you get to go to your science school 4 days a week, and then on the 5th day you go to the other school, which is only down the road. I mean, most schools are pretty fucking close to each other in cities and things like that. I know it'd be a bit more difficult in rural areas, but when you're talking about cities, this would be something that we could definitely do. And then you take all the schools at once, and they get judged in terms of public outcomes of the LEA. Is the LEA the local education authority, is it well run? Now, the LEA would also have information which isn't made public about the individual schools. And that means that you wouldn't have the problem that you have now is that bad schools go even worse because they get needs improvement from fucking Ofsted, and no one wants to send their kids there. The only kids who end up going there are ones with disinterested parents who don't give a fuck, and they send them to the school that's the nearest to them or whatever. They don't care. And that's a big problem. And we need to have a system that looks at the individual strengths of children and molds their education around them. Because I don't believe that anyone out there, is completely untalented. And everyone's got a talent. And it bores my piss that I know people who are not academically minded, so they don't have any GCSEs, they've got no A-levels, they've got no qualifications in that respect. But they can strip a motorbike down to its constituent parts in the morning and then put it back together in the afternoon. I think that is more of a fucking talent than me writing down the answers that I knew were going to come up in the A-level English that I did in the margin to the book that I was allowed to take into my exam for A-level English. I mean, seriously, what the fuck? Anyway, but that was a long time ago. What is it? Correct. Ireland left the UK on the 6th of December 1922 when the Irish Free State came into effect. Yes! I'm back on the quiz team, chatty rat. I hope so. My parents were skint. All I got was the budgie, says Plum Duff. I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, I think that's the situation for most of us. And anyone who's had the misfortune of having a parent who is suffering from an ailment such as dementia, in which if they have to go to a home, luckily my dad hasn't had to go to a home. He's at our home in Liverpool. But you know, the cost is just astronomical, and they take it out of your house, and then you've got nothing to leave your children or your grandchildren when you go, which is, you know, again, if you're rich, it doesn't matter. Everything's so much easier when you're rich. Things are cheaper when you're rich. Isn't that mad? So the more you fly, the cheaper it is to fly. If you can afford to get a bank account in which you pay in, you know, £2,000 a month, right? If you can afford that, you get free bank withdrawals abroad. But if you can't afford that, you've got to pay every time you take money out abroad on your British card. The people who go to the Oscars get these fucking Gucci goodie bags. I've spoken about this before. They get a Gucci goodie bag with like fucking jewels in, or something. I don't know. It's worth like $28,000 fucking dollars, and they're all given one. You know, they're stepping over homeless people on the way to bloody Man's Chinese Theatre for the ceremony. You know, and they're literally given these fucking gold bags. And these are millionaires. These are literal millionaires, and they're given freebies. You know, all these fashion models, they don't pay for their own clothes. People fucking send them. David Beckham's never been in a shop. Not in his adult life. He's just been sent clothes by people. Whereas the rest of us had to pay for fucking clothes. That's why we go to TK Maxx, and, you know, there's no shame in that, because it's fucking, you know, it's a lot cheaper than it would be if we went to a proper shop. I just want to say a big thank you to Paul Fletcher there for the £2 super chat. And Alexis is there saying, have more names for the Public School Mafia website. Oh, excellent, Alexis. Can you pop them onto the Discord server? That would be fantastic. Have you found a screening with subtitle yet? Yes, QA Library. The people at Odeon got in touch with us. So just a bit of backstory here. Over the weekend, I was walking through Durham with my stepdaughters, and I said we need to pop into Odeon. I went in and said, listen, can I ask for you to put on a subtitle screening of Black Panther in a couple of weeks' time? Because you know, my partner's deaf and we want to go and see it. It's actually our anniversary. We want to go and do something, and it's like we can't get to the cinema because there's no fucking subtitle screenings. And they said, oh, it's really up to sort of head office to decide that kind of thing. So I'm like, okay. So I got onto Twitter and said, please, can we have a screening on this date of Black Panther? And yeah, they got in touch with the local cinema here, and they're putting on a screening. They're putting on a screening for us. Yay! We shouldn't have to ask. We really shouldn't have to ask, but you know, at least they've done that. So it's something I've done before. It's funny because like you'd think that you could just go to the cinema and talk to the cinema manager and just say, you know, can you put a screening on in 2 weeks' time that's got subtitles? But they don't really have the power to do that. So you've got to tweet shame them into doing this kind of thing. But yeah, honestly, we could have a whole show about, you know, everyday discrimination against disabled people, and you know how much more difficult life is if you have a disability, and how much more expensive life is if you've got a disability. You know, I'm talking about rich people not having to pay for stuff. I mean, and the amount of stuff that disabled people have to pay extra for, and we're seeing this now with the cost of living going through the roof, and people not being able to afford the electricity to keep the things on in their home that keep them alive. Struggling with a disability, struggling with a disease, struggling with an ailment. And that's when you realise, you're like, fucking hell, you know. And I remember this quote from Anthony H. Wilson, who you know, Tony Wilson, who wasn't privately educated, you should note, who said when he got cancer, he died in, 2007, I think? And he said, it's really funny having no money, you know, and giving all your money away and spending it on you know, bands and nightclubs that fail and all that. It's really funny until you've got cancer and you can't afford the treatment. And yeah, I thought, fucking hell, yeah, he's right. But maybe he had the cancer that just couldn't be treated on the NHS, and there might have been some miracle cure that he could have flown halfway across the world to have. It might not have worked, but he didn't get an opportunity to try it because he didn't have the money. Because he spent all his money on Factory Records and Hacienda and other absolute money pits, other money pits that he was involved in. Anyway, so back into the chat a little bit, and then I have to go. I heard you can get a privilege card for £20 a month, then free insurance. Yeah, again, you know, if you're rich, You can afford to live cheaper. Being poor is surprisingly expensive. And take, for example, getting the bus. Getting the bus here in Durham from our place is about, I think it's £3 now. £3 on the bus, one way. I think it's a £5 for a return ticket. And that's one bus each way. If you have to get 2 different buses, you've got to pay twice. And all the buses go into town. None of them go round the city. So if you need to go somewhere that isn't in the city centre, you've got to get 2 buses. And it's so expensive. If there's 2 of you, it's cheaper to get an Uber. It's cheaper to get a fucking taxi than it is to take the bus, which is madness. You know, I still remember when I was a kid, like, you know, when I was a kid, but it's like 10p. I remember paying 10p on the bus. When I was going to school, when I was going to secondary school, I remember 16p to get the bus. 16 fucking p, which is what it should be. It should be free, actually. You know, that's it. It should just be free to get around your local area. I mean, I'm not asking to fly to fucking Paris or Timbuktu. I just want to go to the shops. So many people who are trapped in their homes because they can't afford the bus fare. And we're subsidising the free bus fares and the discounted bus fares in Germany and France and places where they have nationalised public transport privatised. It's a bit of an oxymoron, that, really, isn't it? QA says, if you're a girl lives on a council estate area who is left-handed with a disability, your life is 40 to 60% more expensive. That is mad, isn't it? Yes, Casper Northern. Oh, someone died. Emon Phoenix died. Oh, shit, okay. That's a bit sad. Why do people that we like keep dying? Why can't someone that we don't like die? There's lots of them. Maybe we should make a list on the internet called the death wish list. And the people that we wish would die. Deathwishlist.com coming soon. I'm putting you on the death wish list. What? Because they've got a death wish like Charles Bronson. No, I wish they were fucking dead. Oh dear. Germany public travel is €6, €1.60 all day. Indeed it is. Richard B says, "Hello, Arg, missed the start." I'm fine. Don't call me Arg. You can always rewind this to the beginning. I played a Brexit video from back in 2016 where they promised a load of shit that didn't come true. So yes, that's it for me for tonight. Thank you for joining me for the War on Error and the Big Lie, which I'm going to use a lot now. I've decided. I just think that the Democrats have got the right idea in the States in a lot of ways. I'm trying to reproduce some of the things that they're doing and they've done in order to keep the MAGA fucking lunatics at bay, which, you know, needs to be done. Needs must when the devil takes the hindmost, or whatever the expression is. So thank you for watching. Richard B says, to get to work, I can't even get a return ticket. I've got to get a day ticket and it's £9.60. That's an hour of work at minimum wage. That's an hour of fucking work to get to work. And just fucking madness. One of the other things I'll do when I'm in charge is all companies that employ more than 5 staff have to pay for their staff to get into fucking work. So you can give them a company car if you're flush, but, you know, otherwise you have to get them a bus pass. And that means that there'll be more bus passes. Some people won't use them, but that means there'll be more money in the collective pot for public transport when it's all renationalised under the Graham Hughes Labour government of I don't know, 2034 or something. Watch out for it. It's coming soon. Why don't we simply adopt best practice? What's wrong with us? That's a good question, mate. What is wrong with us? At the moment, everything. because of the Big Lie. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you on... No, I won't see you on Wednesday. Sorry, I'm not actually going to be here on Wednesday for the Prime Minister's questions. I'm going to be on my way down to London, I think, at that time. So I'll be on a train. And I could do a live show from the train, which would be hilarious because it would just like freak out all the people around me. But I know that my signal would be really shit because I'm about to go through a tunnel and it'll just keep on conking out. And, you know, it's bad enough when you're on the road trying to keep a live cast going, as I found when I was driving to Ukraine earlier in the year. But yeah, it's it's a bit more difficult on a train, especially when you go into a tunnel. You'd think we'd have the technology to sort this out by now, but we don't. Anyway, so I'll be back on Thursday at 9 o'clock for another War on Error, and I might review the previous day's Prime Minister's questions if they're any good. I don't think would be, but we'll see how we go. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all my patrons and all my YouTube subscribers. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the super chats. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.